Sthitilayo Niyati Pradaya Jnana Pradaya Vibudha Surasaukhya Dukkha Satkaranaya Vitataya Namo Namaste Asidudara Gunavaridhira Prameya Narayana Paratama Paramatsa Ekaha Samshanta Samvidakilam Jathare Nidhaya Lakshmi Pujantaragata Swarato Pichate Tasyodarasta Jagata Sadamandasandra Swananda Tushtavapusho Piramaramatya Bhutye Nijashrita Jana Sahisrijya Srishta Viksha Babhuva Paranamanimesh Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Devam Narayanam Natva Sarvadosha Vivarjitam Paripurnam Gurun Shagitartam Vakshyami Leshatah Lakshmi Narayanam Natva Purna Bodhan Gurunapi Kurma Shri Krishna Gitaya Bhashya Duttartha Sangraham Hari Om. Welcome everyone. Welcome to this weekly Pratipadartha Chandrika, where we try to get the word by word breakdown of the Bhagavad-Gita shlokas. And today we are beginning from shloka number 13 of the 5th Adhyaya. You click on the link that I just provided. We will be taken to this website. This is a beautiful website created by the Aurobindo group, compiled by Dr. Sampadananda. It serves a very beautiful purpose for what we intend to achieve here. It gives us a good account of the Padacheda, the Pratipadartha. There is also Vyakaran Amsha that we can further Jijnasus. We can click on multiple other links within the website and then look at a few things. So far we are looking at the 5th Adhyaya, where it begins with a question from Arjuna. Before that, the 4th Adhyaya was primarily an extension to the 3rd Adhyaya, and we see a good discourse from the Jnana perspective. Right? Everything is about Jnana. Ultimately, Jnana is the ultimate way for Mukti, is what many Shruti Vakyas also say, right? So it's all about Jnana, and then towards the end of the Jnana Yoga, there is a question that comes to Arjuna. Oh Krishna, you praise sannyasa and you praise karma yoga. Tell me what is better, right? So there is a bias in the question, there is a cherry picking in that question in his understanding, but nonetheless he has this question. And in the light of it, the first 8 shlokas that we hear from Krishna, he says, Sannyasa karma yogascha nishreyasa karavubho. Both sannyasa and karma yoga, they both are good. But tayosta karma sannyasa, but between them, than the karma sannyasa, if you're thinking about karma sannyasa, karma yoga vishishyate. Karma yoga is better, which is nishkama karma. And then he goes on to say, Jneyah sa nitya sannyasi. Know that nitya sannyasi, yona dveshana kamchati, the one who doesn't have any dvesha, no special akanksha. Nirdvandvo hi mahabaho. O mahabaho, the one who is beyond the dvandva, he sukam bandhat pramuchyate. Very swiftly, very easily, he will overcome the bandhana. Okay, that's what we hear in Shloka 3. And then Shloka 4 says, Sankhya yogo prasadpalaha. Okay, Sankhya and Yoga are different is only the opinion of the Balaha, the inferior people. Pravadantina Pandita, the Pandita, the more learned people don't speak of something in anything like that. Ekamapyasita samyak, even if you embrace one of that path properly, Ubhayor Vindate Padam, you will acquire the fruits of both the Marga, the Jnana Marga and the Yoga Marga, the Karma Marga, right? And then in the 5th shloka he says, Yat Sankhya prapyate sthanam, whatever is achieved through Sankhya, tad yogairapi gamyate. The same thing will be achieved by the yogis also. Ekam Sankhyam cha yogam cha. One, both are one. That Sankhya and Yoga are one. Yah pashyati, the one who sees both of them as same. Saha pashyati, he is the only one who actually is looking at things properly. Right? When we look at all these shlokas, it will give us one common theme, which is it is yoga yukta sannyasa, right? A statement that came in the 3rd adhyaya, nahi, nacha sannyasana deva. By just doing sannyasa, siddhim samadhi gacchati. No siddhi will ever be possible. There is no siddhi ever possible without karma, right? With only sannyasa, there is no siddhi. That's exactly what Krishna is driving even more strongly when he goes on to say in the sixth shloka, Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkhamaptam ayogatah. Without yoga, sannyasa is extreme dukkakara. Yoga yukto manir brahma nachirena gachati. But the one who is yoga yukta, okay, that muni, he will soon acquire the brahma, right? So, and then yoga yukto vishuddhatma, the one who's yoga yukta, and then who's vishuddhatma, who's vijitatma, and then jitendriyaha, and the one who sees sarva bhutatma, one who sees the same paramatma in all the bhutatma, urvannapina lipyate. There is no attachment, there is no taint, there is no karma bandha for that kind of a person, right? And then finally he establishes the tattva behind all this. So yoga yukta sannyasa. Naiva kinchit karomiti yukto manyeta tattvavitu. Whatever the yoga yukta person is doing, when he looks at the tattva, he thinks he is not doing anything. Even when he is touching, when he is seeing, when he is smelling, whatever he does, he thinks he is not doing anything, right? And that's the tattva because indriyani indriyartheshu vartante. It's the indriyas which are acting upon the indriyartha. Right? This is the yoga yukta sannyasa. Right? Sannyasa and yoga are not two different things. It's the same. You can only have sannyasa when you are under yoga. You can't have sannyasa without yoga. And that's exactly what he was telling in the fourth chapter. You know, yoga sanyasta karmanam. He didn't take away the word yoga. Yoga sanyasta karmanam, not just sanyasta karmanam. Yoge karmanam sanyasta. In the state of yoga. And he establishes that very, very nicely. So if when I look at the things from the tattva, if I am not doing anything as a yogi, then what is happening? Then from shloka number 10, right, we start looking at a beautiful message coming. It's developing, right? This message is developing. Brahmanyadhaya karmani sangam tyaktva karoti yaha. The one who establishes himself, pledging himself under the Brahma Adhina, being subservient to the Paramatma Brahma and giving up all the Sangha, Vishayatmaka Sangha, Vishayeshu Sangha, on all the various sense objects, I will give up my attachment, right? And then be under Brahmadhina, be under Brahma. If I do things, okay, lipyate rasa papena, then we will not get attached to any papa. Just like how Padma Patrami Vambhasa, just like how the lotus is in the water, right? It doesn't really, take to itself the slush. The slush is there, and the lotus is, untainted, right? While living properly. And then Kayena Manasa Buddhya Kevalair Indriyerapi. Only by the Kaya, the body, Manasa, the mind, and the Buddhi. And then only by the Indriyas, Kevalair Indriyerapi Yoginaha Karma Kuruvanti. The yogis do the action Sangam Tyaktva Atma Shuddhaye by giving up attachment of the Vishaya for the sake of Atma Shuddhi, because those vasanas are the ones that we need to overcome. And we do that being Brahmadhina, understanding by the Tattva, not doing anything. Primarily intention is to get the Atma Shuddhi right. Right? So, in a simplistic sense, we can all become pilots, we can all become musicians, we can all become dancers, but there is something that is stopping us, right? The vasanas, right? That is the prakriti we have acquired, swabhava, right? If you want to become something, we have to overcome those, atma vrittis, chitta vrittis, whatever ajnana that we are born with, right? So that is the only way to overcome. Keep on doing things, okay? Unless we do, we don't know what we are capable of. So we need to keep on doing, right? And then there, I think very beautifully, he uses the word kevala, jnanena tu kevalam, right? So kaivalya comes from kevala, the word. That's another very interesting thing. There again, the jnana is very significant there. We need to understand that it's all in the state of jnana, and we push ourselves for the sake of jnana because atma shuddhi has to lead into the self-realization, which is where the jnana comes into play. So kevala is a very beautiful usage of the word, in that shloka. And then finally, he says, yuktaha karma phalam tyaktva. Yuktaha, what yuktaha? Brahmadhine, sangam tyaktva yaha karoti. That's the state, right? In that yuktaha, one who gets firmly established in that state of Ishvara Bhava, Brahmadhina, Swabhava, in that Yukta. A Yukta is also a yoga. And then karma phalam tyaktva, that's a sannyasa. Again, reminding us that sannyasa and yoga go hand in hand. Tyaktva shanti mapnoti. In this state, he will achieve the naishtikim shanti mapnoti. He will attain the parama shanti. But ayukta, when we don't get pledged in that very strong brahmadhina state, then ayukta kamakarena, because of our desires, phale saktaha nibadhyate. Like, being completely interested in the akanksha, the phalakanksha, nibadhyate. He is always bound. The more and more desires we have. So he's explaining this. So this section, after explaining the concept called the Yoga Yukta Sannyasa for about 8 shlokas. From shloka number 10, I think we are looking at another interesting concept called the Brahmi Sthiti, being Brahmani Adhina, and then doing the activities for the sake of Atma Shuddhi, and then seeking that Parama Shanti. This is all Brahmi Sthiti. I think we will get to hear more and more about the Brahmi Sthiti. That will now lead us into the 13th shloka, which is what we are supposed to pick up from today. Right? So you click on the 13th minute now. Nice. Okay. Numbers are matching. So now we are in the 13th minute post 8 o'clock. Click on the link. We come to this website. The shloka reads like this. Right? Sarvakarmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadware pure dehi naiva kuruvan nakarayan. So, sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navadware pure dehi naiva kuruvan nakarayan. So, this is the shloka. This website gives us some useful breakdowns and things like that, right? So, scroll down a little bit, we see something called the Padacheda. Padacheda is basically breakdown of the words, right? Padacheda gives sarva karmani manasa sanyasya aste becomes sanyasyaste. Savarna dirgha sandhi. There is sandhi, compounding of the words. Sukham vashi. Navadware pure dehi na eva. Na eva becomes naiva. Kuruvan na karayan. Right? We got a bunch of words that are contained in the shloka. Now we unjumble them. Right? We put them into the proper prose order. And that is being indicated in the Anvaya, the section right above the Padacheda. We have this section called the Anvaya. It reads like this. Vashi dehi sarva karmani manasa sanyasya na kuruvan na karayan eva navadware pure sukham aste. Okay. Vashi. Some of the words look dehi, sarva karmani. Most of the words sound very common. But let us see what it means when we click on the link called dictionary. On the top of the page, we see a link called dictionary. Click on that. Now, word by word in that Anvaya format, in the Anvaya order, we see the meaning. Vashi, the captivated, right? Vashi, one who has perfectly controlled his nature, okay, completely controlled. Vashi, Yoga Yukta, Dehi, like, the embodied soul, right? The Atma. Vashi Dehi, Sarva Karmani Manasa, right? All actions by his manas alone, by his mind alone. Sanyasya, having renounced. Na kurvan na karayan eva. No, he is not doing anything, nor karayan, nor is the cause of any action. Because I have given up everything. Now, yastvindriyani manasa niyamyarabhate arjuna karmendriyehi karma yogam asakta savishishyate. He spoke something like this in the 3rd adhyaya. You give up everything, you keep doing the action, but in the manas, don't get attached to anything. So control everything, and manasa sanyasya. This is not mine. Like, we have this famous line, right? In some of the Vaishnavite beliefs, we say, Naham karta, hari karta, tat puja, karma chakilam. Whatever action I'm doing, I am not the doer. It's the Hari who is getting it done through me. His puja, all the time, even this, if this is an action from me, right? Giving this explanation in this clubhouse, I'm not doing it. Hari is doing it, right? But I have a role to play. My role is here Hari puja. Tat puja karma chakilam. All that I'm doing is Hari puja, right? Again, nothing great about it. That is my kartavya. I have to do that, right? Naham karta, Hari karta, tat puja karma chakilam. Okay, tatrapi matkrita puja. Even there, even the puja that I am able to do for Hari, tat prasadena. It's only through his blessings. Without his blessings, I can't even do puja for him. Na anyatha. There is no other way out. Right? There is no other reason. There is no other cause behind me performing his puja also. So everything is Hari. That's the kind of a concept that some of the Vaishnavites bring in, right? So when I give up everything from the manas, the physical actions that get conducted, get activated through some of my avayavas, right? The bodily physical organs, the karmendriyas and things like that, they are just happening. I am not doer. I don't have any attachment with them. So Vashi Dehi, the embodied soul, Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasya, Naka Kurvan, Nakarayan Eva, Navadware Pure. See, Navadwara Pura is basically the nine doored, Pura. Pura is the dwelling place, right? The nine gated city. There is a, I think Navadwara, rings bell in something, very similar to that comes in the Taittiriya Aranyaka. Ashtachakra Navadvara Devanam Puro Yodhya, like, the body that has Ashtachakra. I think people who are familiar with Kundalini are could could perhaps recollect the Ashtachakra, right? The seven chakras that are in the front and one behind in the head, Bindu. Like there are eight chakras, like Mooladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddhi, the Ajna, Sahasrara, and then Bindu, right? One behind. There are eight chakras. And then Navadvara. Navadvara is basically the nine channels of intake and give out, from the body, within the body. So there are basically two eyes, the two nostrils, the two ears, a mouth, right? That makes it what, seven, and then we have the two at the excretory joints, right? So there are two. Uh, so there are basically nine channels. Okay, uh, that will open up, and we do vyapara, like, we have this, give and take through these nine doors, right? So even when, so not just one, two, right? Navadvara, when you do so many actions, and when there are so much of actions happening, so in our house, typically most of our houses will have one or two doors, right? Some of the urban, very frugal kind of a living will most likely will have one door. Like, most of the houses in extreme urbanized state, like Bombay, these days in Bangalore, most of us have one door, right? Little better to do, little more luxurious living will have two doors, not more than that. Within those two doors, we have so much of vyapara, in, out. Imagine the pura, the body that has nine doors, so much of. So even when the nine doors are activated for multiple actions, we are not doing anything, right? Sukham aste, by understanding that no, I am not doing anything, I am not causing any action. Sukham aste, they will be very happy. So a couple of points to note, right? One is that a couple of shlokas ago, he spoke about Shanti Mapnoti Naistiki. So this is something that is common. Like, whenever he speaks about Shanti, Sukha comes very soon. So in the 12th shloka number 12, I think Yuktaha Karmapalam Tyaktva Shanti Mapnoti, Naistikim Shanti Mapnoti. Immediately the next shloka he says, Sukam Vashi, like, Sanyasyate Sukam Vashi, like, Sukam Aste, like, so Sukha Shanti goes. This has been coming right from consistently from the second chapter. Ashantasya Kutah Sukham, like, Jnanam Labdha Param Shanti Machirena Gachati, like, the fourth adhyaya, like, and then soon after that in the following shloka he speaks about Sukha, like, Ashraddha, Shraddha Janasta, Samshayatma Vinashati, Nayam Lokos, and Nasukam Samshayatmana. So something like that he says, right? So Shanti, wherever Shanti comes, Sukha comes soon after that. So they are tightly interlinked, right? So maybe one coded message. If you really want to look at Sukha, look for Shanti, right? If one is the leading indicator, there is another lagging indicator, right? So you have to look at one to be led into the other, right? So if you really want the Parama Sukha, look for the Parama Shanti, because one leads into the other. Ashantasya Kuta Sukham. So that's a consistent thing and very nice. I see again, these are some of the things that we can always do, right? So I spoke about the Taittiriya Aranyaka. So there is Ashtachakra Navadvara, 8 and 9, right? So there are two numbers that we get. Go back to the 8th shloka and the 9th shloka. It is talking about this Navadvara, like Pashyan, Shunvan, Tushan, Jikhan, Ashnan, Gachan, Swapan, Shwasan. whatever I see, whatever I hear, these are the Navadvara, right? The eyes, the ears, the mouth, the smell, all of this. So, Visarjana is happening in the expiation, right? So, all of, Pralapan, Visrujan, Pralapan, speaking happens to the mouth. Pralapan, Visrujan, Grisnan, Unmishan, Nimishan, Nati. All of these activities are primarily the actions of the Navadvara, like most of the Vyapara that happens. So, look at them, it will connect back to that those two shlokas, the thing that are mentioned in the those shlokas. So, basically, Navadvara are all the actions spoken in those shlokas 8 and 9. So in different ways, I think there is some connection. I mean, don't take me too seriously, but I think the more you contemplate, everything gets contracted into one single theme, right? That's the beauty of Bhagavad-Gita. But yeah, primarily in this Brahmi Sthiti, the message is very simple. Once you are completely self-controlled, even if you are a captive, Vasha can also mean captivated, right? But Vasha is also you have controlled the senses. You have captivated the senses. You are a captivated soul, no doubt, but you have controlled the senses. So Vashi, the one who has controlled or captivated the senses, Dehi, that kind of a person, Sarva Karmani Manasa Sanyasya, all actions by renouncing them in the mind alone. Na Kuruvan, na Karayan Eva. Okay, Navadware Pure. He's not doing anything nor causing anything within his nine gated body. And Sukha Mate, he will achieve absolute Sukha. That's the core meaning of this. Again, more and more traits of the Brahmi Sthiti. And look at this closely, right? Brahmi Sthiti is all about Bahiranga Shuddhi, right? Like when we spoke about the example of the lotus leaf, the lotus stalk, we really don't know what's happening inside lotus. But externally it is not getting itself tainted, it is not getting itself attached. Right? So Bahiranga Shuddhi, and all of this is Bahiranga Shuddhi. So Brahmi Sthiti is first you go for the Bahiranga Shuddhi, and then I think soon, little while later, I think we will be brought into the concept of the Antaranga Shuddhi because both need to be. When we do sannyasa, when we do Yoga Yukta sannyasa, we need to understand the concept of Yoga Yukta sannyasa first, and then it is not easy. So we need to understand the importance of the Bahiranga Shuddhi. Then I think Krishna will bring us to the concept of Antaranga Shuddhi. When we understand all three concepts in complete sense, I think that is where perhaps the concept of sannyasa becomes much more well-rounded, completely holistic, in its definition. But nonetheless, let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says for this. Click back on the main link, which is the Shloka link, and then scroll down a little bit. You will see Aurobindo interpretation at the bottom of the page. The embodied soul. Again, soul can be a very bad word, but we will read it. I think we should get a little used to it. So the embodied soul, Dehi, perfectly controlling its nature, okay, or his nature. Atma, as the Vashi, Dehi, having renounced all its actions by the mind. Okay, sanyas, manasa sanyasya. Okay, inwardly, not outwardly. Right? Sits serenely in its nine-gated city, neither doing nor causing to be done. Sits serenely, sukham aste, basically serenity, absolute tranquility, serenity. Right? So that's the way it's saying. But basically, path to sukha, because the constant question from Arjuna is, what is good for me? And happiness, at the end of the day, everything is boiling down to happiness. So you will become absolutely happy in this kind of a state, is what he's telling. Give up all desires on manasa, but be engaged in your actions, not just one or two gates, not one or two channels of transaction. Navadvara Pura, that is your Ayodhya, Navadvara, Ashtachakra, Navadvara, Devanam Pura, Ayodhya. Right? That's the kind of a thing that we hear in the Taittiriya, right? So yeah, so that's the 13th shloka. We click on next and move on to the 14th shloka. It reads like this, right? So basically, give up the ownership, the vanity. So the 14th shloka reads like this, right? न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते. I think again more and more about see, most of these things have been spoken earlier, but one concept at a time is more concretized, in each of these sections, right? We see what this shloka gives us in the Padacheda. We scroll down a little bit and see the Padacheda. Na kartrutvam, na karmani, lokasya, srijati prabhuhu, na karmapala sanyogam, swabhavaha tu pravartate. Only one sandhi, right? Swabhavaha tu swabhavastu, right? Now, when we unjumble these words, we get the Anvaya, right? Anvaya says, hey Arjuna, that's a constant Sambodhana, right? So it's all being referred to Arjuna. Prabhuhu na lokasya karmani na kartrutvam na karmapala sanyogam srujati. Swabhavaha tu pravartate. Right? What does that mean? For that we click on dictionary. Prabhuhu, the Prabhu means the ruler, right? The Lord. Prabhuhu na lokasya karmani, not the works of this world, na kartrutvam, not the feeling of doership, not the feeling of absolute doership, independent doership, na karma phala sanyogam, nor attachment to the karma phala, right? Not the joining of the fruits of action. Srijati, he creates. Swabhavaha tu pravartate. It's the swabhava which is set in motion, right? Which works out, right? Which functions to indeed, right? See, Prabhu, when we see the Lord, I think there are two possibilities, right? Broadly, Prabhu means the Paramatma, the ultimate Lord, but Pure Dehi, Dehas Prabhu is Atma. There are both possibilities because the previous shloka, see, there is we can't make that gross mistake of treating every shloka in its isolation. It's a continuation. So there is merit in considering Prabhu to be the Atma, and there is a merit in considering the Prabhu to be the Paramatma, right? And some of us too tend to believe that both Atma Paramatma are the same. That's another thing, right? But from an interpretation perspective, Prabhu can be the Atma, immediate Atma, and Prabhu can be the Paramatma. Let's see what it can mean from both perspectives, right? We need to make sense of both the perspectives. So, Prabhu na lokasya karmani. And again, what loka are we talking about when we talk about the Atma? It is the Navadvarapura. That's what is spoken in the previous. You know, there is a beautiful expression in the 15th adhyay, because that's where we started, right? This entire journey of looking at the meaning. We started from Purushottama Yoga because that is our club, right? And there he says, Karmanubandhini Manushya Loke. Manushya Loke, Tatpurusha Samasa says, the Loka of the Manushya. If you look at some other way, it is the Manushya Eva Loka, like, the body itself is a Loka. The human Manushya, each Manushya is a Loka, right? We are all an ecosystem. We are not standalone. Inside us, there are so many other Jivatmas, right? They're dwelling. We don't know, right? So, Prabhu can be both, and Loka can also be the both, right? So, if it is the Atma, Loka becomes my own ecosystem. If it is the Paramatma, then it is the broader ecosystem. Lokasya karmani na srijati. He doesn't create any work. Okay, na kartrutvam srijati, doesn't create any absolute sense of doership. Na karma phala sanyogam srijati. He doesn't even create any particular karma phala, right? And swabhavaha tu pravartate. Oh, it's the swabhava, the prakriti, niyata swabhava, that is set in motion, that is set to rolling. It's that, he says that, right, in the third adhyaya, sadrisham chestate swasyaha prakrite jnanavanapi, means you are the extreme jnani, right? Sadrisham prakrite, sadrisham chestate, like, through the prakriti alone, your all chesta, all actions are primarily from the, and that is where he says, prakriti nyanti bhutani, every, jiva bhuta acquires its prakriti. There is prakriti for everyone, a bespoke prakriti for each and everyone. Nigraha kim karishati. What do you do out of, what do you achieve out of restraint? Nigraha kim karishati. At the end of the day, even nigraha, if you think that I have controlled something, it's ultimately the prakriti which is set in motion. Right? So that's a very vexing kind of a line, in the third adhyaya. But I think, yeah, that need to be brought out in multiple instances in the future as well, because that's a very, very vexing. It's a mind bender kind of a shloka. The more we think about it, we have different interpretations that will come, right? But yeah, so I just want to remind so that we can also cross-reference that whenever we think of something around the works and the prakriti, right? And whenever there is something being spoken about karma and the swabhava or the prakriti, right? So now, looking at the Atma, the one who is the embodied, Atma alone, he doesn't have any absolute karma. He doesn't have any absolute kartrutva. He doesn't have any absolute karma phala sanyoga all by himself. So if I am Bharata, is that Atma? I mean, Bharata is my current Janma's identification, right? I mean, that need not belong to the Atma, but nonetheless, right, for easier understanding, if Bharata is that Atma, I don't have any absolute karma. I don't have any absolute kartrutva. I am not the doer, right? And this is not my work. Na karma phala sanyogam sujati. I don't have any specific karma phala sanyoga. Whatever comes is prasada. Whatever kartrutva, it is basically a combination, not just mine. It's a combination of multiple forces, right? And karmani again, my swabhava and things like that, right? Sujati. Okay, swabhava tu pravartate. It's my innate swabhava which is set in motion. I am not doing anything. If it is the Paramatma, if the Prabhu is the Paramatma, the interpretation is that the Lord doesn't give any specific task to any individual. Okay, there is nothing like okay, Bharata has to do this. This is not defined by the God. He doesn't have any because see there it it becomes the pakshapata. It becomes like the partiality. Like for example, if I'm part of a family with three siblings, right? Me, my two of my brothers or sisters and things like that. We have this complaint. Oh, my mother keeps sending me to the shop, or another person. Oh, my mom keeps asking me to do the mopping and the sweeping. Oh, my mom keeps asking me to assist her in the cooking. Like we think that okay, he gets to go to the shop, which is easier. I get to do the mopping and the cleaning. Or if it were to be our offices. Oh, this boss of mine, he calls me for all the dirty work of stacking up the data and putting these complicated data cleansing. All of these things is for me. But that guy gets different things like training, grooming, providing orientation to the new joinees to the team. So we think that there is some partiality happening. There is no partiality, right? At the proper, mata pita kind of a feeling. And here we are talking about Prabhu, who is the lokasya, Jagat Janaka, right? He is the father of the entire world. So as much as my father doesn't have partiality of defining, okay, he has to do this out of any vested interest. No, the only reason why he has a specific work for me is because of the way I display my swabhava. My swabhava comes out in a certain way. If my swabhava comes out in a more upfront, very congenial kind of a swabhava and things like that, obviously my boss will make me the go-to person for introducing the new members of the team to the team activities and getting them oriented to the various activities we do. If my swabhava is more inclined towards, if appears to be inclined towards chopping the vegetables and things like that, my mother would naturally pick me first to help her in the kitchen activities and things like that. If my swabhava is more inclined towards, better negotiation of prices in the vegetable market, better haggling and things like that, perhaps, I'm more of a natural fit. So I can't then complain, oh, why am I being sent all the time? Like it's swabhava. Like the more fine-tuned our swabhava becomes, that's the different activities will come, right? And that happens through Atma Shuddhi. That's what we spoke in a couple of shlokas earlier. So if I'm the local Prabhu, I don't have any independence. If I'm the Jagat Prabhu, there is no partiality. That's the way we have to take. And similarly, there is no karma that Prabhu, Lokasya Prabhu Srijati, no Kartrutva Lokasya Prabhu Srijati, na Karma Phala Sanyoga Lokasya Prabhu Srijati. Then what is happening, Swabhava? When we look at that Swabhava in a little more detailed way, I think there are some Bhashyakaras who then try to break it down. Prakriti, we have three main forces, right? The Jnana Shakti, the Kriya Shakti, the Icha Shakti. Right? There are three proper forces that come into play, right? It's the Icha Shakti is where we show the will. Okay, how much I want to do certain things. It's the Prayatna, the Kriya Shakti, which is then shows, how much I am pledging myself for it. Right? What is it that I want to do? How much of interest I show towards it, and how much of Swarupa Jnana I do possess currently in terms of delivering that. At the end of the day, it's a Prakriti. Prakriti can be the Moola Prakriti, the Mahadevi, can be seen in these three forms, right? The Kriya, the Icha, and the Jnana, right? The Durga, the Lakshmi, and the Saraswati, right? So when these three things come together, that is where the Swabhava gets manifested. And then the ecosystem around us will also give us the commensurate, or let that commensurate, kartrutva, karma manifest by itself. When we look at Sri Krishna as the Loka Prabhu here, he was never a warmongering guy. He went to the extreme case of even negotiating for 5 villages. Like, let's stop the war. But he's not, now he's the one who's telling pick up the bow, arrow, and then fight. He doesn't have any attachment to anything particular. He just wants the right things to be done, right? Based on different svabhavas that have come together and manifested in face of each other, right? So this is primarily what we need to understand. So we need to understand this Prabhu, or maybe if there are other interpretations, I mean, we should do that, but in proper way. There is no absolute in both the instances of Prabhu being the local Prabhu and the universal Prabhu. The message is very simple. None of us have independent karma, kartrutva, karma phala sanyoga. It's the swabhava that is set rolling. It is set in motion. Unless that swabhava, which is rooted in the prakriti, desires for something else, deliberates into something else through the kriya shakti, icha shakti, jnana, swabhava jnana shakti, and that is where we need to get the shakti, into the side. Okay, that is the one that seeks everything, whether it's the karma, kartrutva, or the karma phala, right? So that is basically, so again, to understand more from a technical perspective, this shloka is very important, because at the end of the day, the purpose is to remain in that Brahmi Sthiti, right from shloka number 10, I think, till about shloka number 20, 21. The theme is consistent, Brahmi Sthiti, because A, you look at the Yoga Yukta Sannyasa, then you get into understand the Brahmi Sthiti, where we then do the Bahiranga Shuddhi. This is all about, getting ourselves detached from the avayava and the actions. That is the Bahiranga Shuddhi, right? So let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Come back to the main shloka page and then scroll down. It says, the Lord neither creates the works of the world, nor the state of the doership, nor to the joining of the works to the fruit. Nature works out these things, right? Swabhava is set in motion, right? So click on the next. We move on to shloka number 15. It reads like this. नादत्ते कस्यचित् पापं न चैव सुकृतं विभुः अज्ञानेनावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः नादत्ते कस्यचित् पापं न चैव सुकृतं विभुः अज्ञानेनावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः. Again, there is a word called Vibhu here, right? Prabhu, Vibhu, Prabham, Prananatham, Vibhum, Vishwanatham. So basically we're talking about the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Bhagavan. Right? Let's see what the Paracheda for this gives. Right? Scroll down a little bit on this page. Na adatte kasyachit papam nacha eva sukrutam vibhuhu ajnanena avrutam jnanam tena muhyanti jantavaha. Very few santis here. No, na adatte, cha eva chaiva. And then ajnanena avrutam, ajnanena avrutam. There are only 3 santis, I think. Yeah, very few. But Padacheda is pretty much straightforward, very similar to what the shloka says. Let's see what the unjumbling of these words provide when we look into the Anvaya, right? Vibhuhu na kasyachit papam na cha eva sukrutam adatte. Ajnanena jnanamavrutam tena jantavaha muhyanti. Right? What does that mean? For that we need to click on dictionary, right? On top. Vibhuhu, the all-pervading impersonal, right? Vibhuhu na kasyachit papam adatte na kasyachit sukritam cha adatte. He does not receive. Adatte is accept, receive, right? He does not accept anybody's papa, any papa, nor does he accept anybody's sukrita. Vibhu na kasyachit papam adatte. The Vibhu, the Lord, does not accept anybody's or any papa, na sukritam cha adatte. Nor does he accept any sukrita, the good deeds, the virtues. Ajnanena jnanam avritam. No, through the ignorance, ajnanena, jnanam, the knowledge is avritam, is enveloped, is shrouded, is covered. Tena jantavaha muhyanti. By that, the beings, the jantavaha, the creatures, muhyanti, they get bewildered, they get deluded. So we spoke about jnana, right? Little while ago. Atma Shuddhi is realization, jnana. Okay. Kevala Indriya, right? Kevala Indriya. Kevala is also possible only through jnana. Ultimately, we have to reach that Kevala state of only through Indriya, Buddhi, Manasa. We have to perform jnana is important. But the jnana is difficult. What it says is, na adatte, does not receive. Who? Vibhu. See, we need to understand one thing. When we look at Atma as a word, I think we spoke about this little while ago, some time back. Atma, by the Vyutpatti, by the very etymological sense, Adatte iti Atma, the one that accepts. I think we will see more of this in the next Adhyaya. And next Adhyaya doesn't come with any special, break from Arjuna asking another question. It's the same thing, right? From the second shloka of the fifth Adhyaya till the 32nd shloka of the next Adhyaya, this is the longest discourse of Bhagavad-Gita so far that we are seeing. It's one single, but for easier understanding of the subject, one part of that big discourse has been called as Sannyasa Yoga, and the second part of the discourse has been called as the Dhyana or Atma Sanyama Yoga. It's the same thing, right? It's a continuation. There is a smooth flow in between, right? Similarly, how there is a smooth transition between the third and the fourth chapter because it's eventually the same. Okay, karma, jnana, one leads into the other. Similarly, sannyasa, dhyana, one leads into the other. One on the bahiranga side is the sannyasa, antaranga side is the dhyana, right? So, bahiranga side is the karma, antaranga side is the jnana. It's the two sides of the same coin. It has a smooth transition, right? When we see Atma, we will see more of Atma in the second part of it, which is the next chapter, sixth Adhyaya, because there Atma, see, whatever receives, whatever is accepting things is Atma. Buddhi is accepting something, Manas is accepting something, Indriyas are accepting something, the different Antakaranas, okay, the Chit, the Atma, that's also accepting something. Even Paramatma is accepting. At the end of the day, we hear that, right? In the 15th Adhyaya, that's where we started, right? In the 15th Adhyaya, Ishvaraha etani sarvani grihitva sanyati vayuhu, ashayat gandhaniva. Something, shotram chakshuhu sparshanam cha, sorry, some shloka, right? Shariram yadavapnoti yacha apitramati ishvaraha grihitva etani sanyati vayur gandhani vashayat. So in the 15th Adhyaya, we saw that. Even Ishvara takes away, right? So Paramatma also adatte, Atma also adatte, Buddhi also adatte, Manas also adatte, no, the Indriyas also adatte. So when we look into the next chapter, the same word Atma, because Atma, the root of it is adatte, whatever is accepting. And we will see the word Atma being interchangeably used for multiple of these Antakaranas as well as the Paramatma. Right? The same word can be interpreted. But here, very clearly, na adatte, kasyachit papam adatte. The only one who is untainted by the papa is Paramatma. So here I think Vibhu can be more directly Paramatma. I think we can avoid the possibility of Atma in this sense. It is only the Paramatma that we talk about. But again, there are some schools of thought where Prabhu, Vibhu, Atma, Antaratma, Paramatma can all be the same, right? There is no distinguishing. But in some schools where there is a distinguishing being drawn, I think unlike the previous shloka where Prabhu could have had a legit interpretation of both Atma and the Paramatma, I think in this, for those who believe that Paramatma and Atma are different, I think Vibhu can only be Paramatma, right? Na kasyachit papam adatte. The Vibhu, the Supreme Paramatma, doesn't accept anybody's papa because there, Gandha, the word in the 15th sloka, 15th adhyaya, 8th sloka was also Gandhan Ashayat Iva, Grihitva Etani Sanyati. Gandha by default is positive Gandha, Sugandha. Right? Durgandha has to be a special articulation. Gandha Lepana is the Chandana Gandha Lepana. Basically it's a good smell. Gandha by default has a positivity to it. It's not a neutral term, Gandha, right? So similarly, and which means he only takes away the Sugandha. He doesn't take the Durgandha, right? Similarly here, the Vibhu doesn't take anybody's Papa. He doesn't take anybody's Sukruta also. And the good deeds are not taken by him. The fruits are taken by him, but not the good deeds are not sukritam na adatte, na karsachit papam adatte. Okay, we tend to feel when we say that no, Paramatma is everything. There is a ajnana in many of us thinking that now all my papa is also his. No, I don't have karma. I don't have any kartrutva. I don't have any karma phala sanyoga. But the papa and the punya are mine. This is very clear distinction being drawn by Krishna that you don't have any rights, you don't have any entitlement, you don't have any attachment, right? You don't have any independence. But the effect of the results, effect of your actions are yours. Both your papa and the punya are yours. And that is not known for many people because ajnanena jnanamavritam. Okay, tena jantavaha muhyanti. People are bewildered of this fact because they are shrouded under the ajnana. Again, coming back to the same point that we were talking, swabhava has to be deliberated. If I have to avoid the papa, punya, I can't just say sannyasa. In sannyasa, giving up everything in the name of Sri Hari, I have to deliberate. Brahmani adhaya, when I come under the adhina of Brahma, then I have to be deliberative. I can't leave it like a free will of just like how some people try to ride the wave wherever it takes me, right? It can't be like that. You have to be when somebody is riding the wave, of course the wave is what determines the larger part of the force behind where exactly we end up going. But we can't be just balancing on the skateboard. We need to know when to hop on from one wave to the other. If somebody is into surfing, we need to clearly know when exactly we have to jump on. That much is mine. I can't leave everything to Bhagavan. I can't leave it to the wave. If the wave crashes midway, then I can't continue to blame the wave. I have to put in my effort to make sure that before I crash, I am on another wave. Right? So that deliberation has to come. That Icha Shakti has to be displayed. That Prayatna has to be displayed. That Swabhava Jnana has to be continued to be honed. And that ajnana has to be overcome. That we will see later. But primarily, most people cannot continue in the Brahmi sthiti, in the Brahmadhina sthiti, because most of us are gifted with this ajnana, which will cloud the ajnana, through which we all end up becoming deluded, bewildered. Right? So eventually, back to the same point, between 14th and 15th adhyaya, to be able to see, remain in the seat of Brahmadina, Brahmi Sthiti, continue to activate the Kriya, Icha, Jnana, deliberate and keep on bringing the right intentions, right Prayatna, and then unlocking the right Swarupa Jnana within each one of us, and then keep offering everything to Paramatma afterwards. Don't just let anything without any Prayatna from our side. We have to constantly put in the Prayatna. Like Naham Karta, Hari Karta, but Tasya Puja is my prasada. I have to be responsible in that. Right? Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. The all-pervading impersonal Vibhu accepts neither the Papa nor the Sukruta of any. Knowledge is enveloped by ignorance, thereby the creatures are bewildered. Right? Very important slokas these, and very powerful, right? Very good. The more we by heart, the more we do chintana, I think we will all have our own eureka moments on this. But nonetheless, for now, we move on to next sloka number 16. Okay, so we are now clouded with ajnana, right? Most of us. What do? He explains this. Jnanena tu tadajnanam yesham nashitamatmanah tesham adityavajnanam prakashayati tatparam. ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानं येषां नाशितमात्मनः तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं प्रकाशयति तत्परम्. We do the padacheda first. Jnanena tu tat ajnanam yesham nashitam atmanaha tesham adityavat jnanam prakashayati tatparam. Right? What does the prose order give? Let's read the Anvaya. Hey Arjuna, yesham tu tat ajnanam atmanaha jnanena nashitam tesham jnanam adityavat tatparam prakashayati. So we have that ajnana, right? Ajnana that is clouding our jnana, that is causing the bewilderment. How to treat that? We have to treat it with jnana. So let's see what dictionary says. Hey Arjuna, yesham, of those people, too, indeed, of those people, tat ajnanam atmanah jnanena nashitam syat. Like, if for those people whose that ajnana, which is clouding our jnana, if that can be destroyed through atmanah jnana, by the knowledge of self, by the Swarupa Jnana. Realize yourself, what are you capable of. Right? Tesham Jnanam, for those people, the Jnana which was earlier clouded, okay, Adityavat Tatparam Prakashayati. Just like Aditya, Tatparam, towards that supreme self, towards a supreme state, like, Prakashayati, keeps on brightening, keeps on glowing, keeps on lighting up. Right? So if you can unlock your Swarupa Jnana, which is what we end up achieving through the Atma Shuddhi process, and that is what we hear in that shloka, right? Shloka number 11 or something. Okay, when we can unlock that, Atma Shuddhi, through Atma Shuddhi, the Swarupa Jnana, the self knowledge, then that Atma, Ajnana can be overcome, and then the jnana which was inherently seated inside all of us will start glowing like like the Aditya's prakasha, right? Never deterring, ever glowing all the time towards eternity. Tatparam prakashayati, towards that eternal Paramatma, towards that eternity, it keeps on glowing. Right? Aditya is a ever glowing entity. Right? Now, Adityavat, right? It's a very beautiful one. I think there are this one. I think there could be a couple of instances. See, Adityavat, he is both the Tejasvi as well as the Tejas. He is both the Prakasha and he is the Prakashaka. Adityavat Prakasha. We need to understand that the light is inside the Atma. The Atma itself is the light, and Atma will be lit. There are two ways of looking at this, right? I mean, the more contemplation we do, we just need to unlock it, right? Through the Atma Shuddhi process, right? Once we start, so it's all within us. It's like, there is a saying, right? All of us are the gold. Only thing is we are not polished, right? It's a dust which is sitting on us, which need to be polished. And that's what we develop through the Atma Shuddhi process. So let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. Verily, in whom the ignorance is destroyed by the self-knowledge, in them the knowledge lights up like a sun, the supreme self, okay, within them. Right? So something that we need to bear in mind. So again, looking at do everything in the Brahmadhina state, okay, for the Atma Shuddhi purpose through the body, mind, Atma, Manas, and the Indriyas alone, through the intellect, Buddhi, Manas, and Kaya, and the Indriya, for the sake of thing, and please understand, we don't have any karma, kartrutva, karma phala sanyoga, but my swabhava is set in motion. Do more with the swabhava. Unlock more about the swabhava. Unlock more of the icha. Unlock more of the prayatna. Unlock more of the swarupa jnana. Right? Keep doing that. And of those people, which is all of us, right? All of us are our current state. Purva Paksha is that we are all ajnanis. Right? The only way we can go forward is unlock the Atma Jnana, Swarupa Jnana, getting better and more we do, that Ajnana keeps on getting destroyed. It's a continuous process, right? And once we start doing that, the Atma will be lit, it will light. Atma Prakashayati. So Surya, that's where I said it is both the Tejas, it is both Tejas as well as the Tejasvi. Surya is both the Prakasha and the Prakashaka. He is the one who is lit, he is the one who is lighting, both, right? He is lit because he is burning, And he is lighting because that is what gives us the ultimate source of light for all of us. So that's what Atma can do. Right? So we move on to the next one. So this is the Brahmicity, more and more technical, reasoning behind the state of Brahmicity. The more we contemplate upon this, I think I'm sure all of us will have our own eureka moments, right? So yeah, let's see shloka number 17. I think this is again, all of this is the Bahiranga Shuddhi, right? We have to keep on doing the actions, right? So shloka number 17 now, we click on the next and come there. It reads like this. तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानस्तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानस्तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः. What does the padacheda give? Tat buddhayah, tat atmanah, tat nishthaah, tat parayanah gachanti apunaravrittim jnana nirdhuta kalmashaah. What does that give? When we unjumble the anvaya, tat buddhayah, tat atmanah, tat nishthaah, tat parayanah jnana nirdhuta kalmashaah apunaravrittim gachanti. Right? What does that mean? We click on dictionary. Right? Tat buddhayaha, those who have turned their discerning mind to that. So this pronoun, that, what is that? Atmajnana. Because the subject of the previous shloka, when we ended, right, it is towards the Atma Jnana. Jnanena tu tada jnana. Yesham, tesham. So the subject is the Atma Jnana. Right? So tat buddhayaha, those who have turned their discerning mind to the Atma Jnana. Tat Atmanaha, those who have directed their whole consciousness to the Atma Jnana. Tat Nishthaha, those who have consecrated themselves to that Atma Jnana. Tat Parayanaha, those who have their heart and soul in that constant state. Parayanaha, constantly into that Atma Jnana. Jnana Nirdhota Kalmashaha, those who have washed their sins with the knowledge. Apunaravrittim, the state where there is no return state. Apunaravrittim, na punaha avrittim, no enveloping again. Technically, na punaha avrittim apunaravrittim, right? So, avritta is what? Avritta is the jnanena, ajnanena jnanam avrittam. That's what we heard, right? One shloka, two shlokas ago. So, that ajnana state will not become again. That avritti will not happen again. Gachanti will not go to that avritta state. Gachanti. So, basically, when we are constantly, buddhaya, seeking that atma jnana, when we are tat atmana, when we are completely made that atma jnana as our own, tat nishtha, okay, with properly nishtha is that that basically complete pledging, right? I mean, we are so tat nishtha, how do you explain this word? Constantly staying there, constantly who consider this is the ultimate thing to achieve, completely pledging ourselves for that. Okay, and tat atmanaha, basically atmanaha is also paramatma. Okay, one who considers the paramatma to be that self, like tat atmanaha, tat buddhaya, one who completely seeks shelter of that, seeks the knowledge of that, right? And tat parayana, constantly staying in that, right? Jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha, one who has overcome their sins with that knowledge. Okay, then they will not have that state again of ajnana, right? So again, more and more benefits. Just like the sun, who lights up as well as get lit, both, like the supreme to that eternity state. Here again, once we become completely pledged to that atmajnana by being aware of it, okay, by being completely making it our own, by going relentlessly behind it, and always staying towards it. Okay, so four key qualities, right, to make that. Okay, I think what happens in this process is that Bahiranga Shuddhi will start turning towards the Antaranga Shuddhi. Slowly, we will make it as our own, right? Because this is the key as the bridging point between making that Bahiranga Shuddhi as an Antaranga Shuddhi. At the end of the day, a lot of things that we do in Bahiranga Shuddhi can be deliberate, need to be deliberate, only to attain that autopilot state where internally we are attuned to it. When we have to get up early in the morning, initially we have to look at external, physical assistances. That is where we deliberate. Keep an alarm, tell somebody around you, please wake me up, and things like that. But do that repeatedly do that. It becomes a habit. We can then set the alarm right. If the alarm goes wrong, our body system would have been so accustomed that we can then correct if the alarm goes wrong. So to get that discipline right, I think these are the qualities. We have to be constantly pledging ourselves for the awareness of it, pledging ourselves to make it our own, pledging ourselves to be going behind it relentlessly. Buddhayaha, Atmanaha, Nishtaha, Parayanaha, constantly staying there. Such jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha, for such people, the papa will be relinquished, overcome with the jnana. Those people, they will never return back to that avarana, to that veiling state, to that enveloping state of that ajnana. Right? Let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says for this. Right? It says, turning their discerning mind towards that Atmajnana, directing their whole conscious being to that Atmajnana, making that the Atmajnana their whole aim and the sole object of their devotion. They go whence there is no return, their sins washed away by the waters of knowledge. Right? So we now move on to the next shloka, shloka number 18. Again, more and more about Brahmi Sthiti because it's difficult to stay everything. See, our antakaranas are pretty strong, our indriyas are pretty strong, our ahankara is pretty formidable, right? So we have to keep deliberating in the state of the uh, Brahmi Sthiti, right? So let's see what the next shloka says. Shloka number 18, very popular one. This is a very popular one. It reads like this. विद्या विनय संपन्ने ब्राह्मणे गविहस्तिनि शुनि चैव श्वपाके च पंडिताः समदर्शिनः विद्या विनय संपन्ने ब्राह्मणे गवि हस्तिनि शुनि चैव श्वपाके च पंडिताः समदर्शिनः. What does the Padacheda contain? You scroll down. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Cha Eva Shwapake Cha Panditaha Samadarshinaha. When we unjumble this, not much I think. Panditaha Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Cha Shuni Shwapake Cha Eva Samadarshinaha. Pretty straightforward, not much difference in the Anvaya, but let's see what it means. We click on dictionary, right? Hey Arjuna, Panditaha, the Pandita. Now again, this is the fourth time. Fourth time? Yeah, fourth time. Krishna uses the word Pandita because Pandita, Pandava, they are all in the same root Panda. Right? Panda is Buddhi, right? Intellect. That's the faculty. So if there is Dhriti in the Dhartarashtra, there is Buddhi in Pandu. So these are the two qualities, right? So this is perhaps one of the reasons why Pandita is a relevant term. But Pandita is also an administrator, right? So in second chapter we saw that Nanu Shochanti Panditaha. In the fourth chapter we see that, like where he says यस्य सर्वे समारंभाः कामसङ्कल्प वर्जिताः ज्ञानादित त्यक्ता कर्माणि तमाहुः पंडितं बुधाः. Those are the pandita whose every action is lit by the fire of jnana. Right? That's a pandita. Right? They are also karma yogis. Panditas are also very active. One of the first questions to Yudhishthira in the Yaksha Prashna is Panditaha Kaha, who is a Pandita? And Yudhishthira's answer is also nice, like Dharmajnaha Pandita, the one who understands Dharma is a Pandita, right? So there are different, and then I think we looked at those 16 shlokas in the Vidura Niti, right? Vidura Niti is in the previous Parva. Right now we are in the Bhishma Parva. The Bhagavad-Gita is happening in the Bhishma Parva. The previous Parva is the Udyoga Parva. That is where we have the Vidura Niti, where there are 16 shlokas, okay, in the discourse between Vidura to Dhritarashtra. We get to see the definition of Pandita get getting very well elaborated, very well articulated in those 16 shlokas. We had discussed that also. Right, those sages, when we say Pandita are sages, I think when we really look at the Pandita as a term, the definition given in the Vidura Niti, those 16 shlokas, whatever is the qualities of a yogi, karma yogi, I think we will see them in the Pandita. So calling them a sage, and we don't know what kind of an interpretation people get with the word sage also, right? Sometimes this English translation can be a little watering down. Panditaha, they are rooted in the intellect, and then they do the right thing, right? So Panditaha, the Panditas, and Pandava, right? One of the first words used by Sanjaya to describe Arjuna in Bhagavad-Gita is also Pandava. Madhava, Pandavaschaiva, Divyo, Shanko, Pradadmathu. So Pandava. In first chapter, we get to see him as the Pandava. Right? He is the Panduputra, right? I mean, there are five, but he gets a special emphasis for being called the Pandava, right? So, Panditaha or Panditas, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane, in Brahmanas who are Sampanna, enriched with Vidya and Vinaya. That's one way of looking at it. But in some places, Vidya Vinaya Sampanna are the people who have the richness of Vidya Vinaya, comma, and among Brahmana. So Brahmana, so there are two ways of looking at it. Call Brahmana separately and Vidya Vinaya Sampanna kind of people separately. Or Brahmana who is Vidya Vinaya Sampanna. There are two ways, right? Vidya Vinaya Sampanna becomes an adjective to define that kind of a Brahmana. Or Vidya Vinaya Sampanna becomes itself a category of people. Right? Because even Brahmana is a Gaunatmaka. It's a qualifying kind of a term. Right? So in the Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane, in Brahmanas who are enriched with Vidya Vinaya, or in the Brahmanas and among people who are rich in Vidya Vinaya. Gavi, in the cows, Hastini in the elephant, Cha also, Shuni in the dogs, among the dogs, Shwapakecha, people who do paka of the dog, who make the, uh, you know, uh, who have who eat the dog meat, and that is the Chandala. That's the definition of the word, right? Chandala, the outcast, basically people who are outcast, right? Cha eva samadarshinaha. They have equanimity. They see them with same sense. The Atma Shuddhi, the thing that we are talking about, Atma Shuddhi, is needed here very importantly. You look at everyone the same. Right? This is important. Samadarshana is very important because Arjuna is now the entire Vishada. The central theme of his Vishada is Guru and Pitamaha, Bhishma Drona. That is where Swajanam hi katam hatva sukhina syama madhava. How can I kill my own people? How can you kill somebody else? If you're a Kshatriya, you have to kill. You have to protect your people through kshata, right? Through the difficulties, through the bada. Okay, how can you kill somebody else if you can't kill your own people? You have to kill. So look at everyone the same. It's the current incidental factors that need to matter rather than who they are, right? You don't attach them to the material understanding. So if we have to become samadarshana, if we have to look at the one that I consider to be close to my bloodline relationship also is the same. If they are playing a different role right now, they are all enemies. They are among the enemies. I have to, deliver my kartavya, right? So I have to become samadarshana through the Atma Shuddhi, which is staying in the state of the Brahmicity, which is basically Brahmadhina sthiti of doing kartavya. In that, now he's explaining Panditaha, which is constantly a reminder to Arjuna, you are supposed to be this, you are a Pandita. Sankhya Yogo, Kratak Bala, iti manyante, Balaha manyante, not Panditaha, Panditaha na manyante. So, it's the inferior people who think that Sankhya Yoga are different, not Pandita. Again, reminding him that you are a Pandita, you can be better than that myopic view of yours. That you're thinking Sannyasa and Karma Yoga are two different things. They are the same, right? So Pandita is a constant reminder to Arjuna, this is what you are, invariably showing a mirror to his Atma Swarupa, right? Arjuna, oh Pandita, among Vidya Vinaya Sampanna, people who have achieved that Sampanna, who have realized that enrichment of Vidya and Vinaya, and Brahmanas, people who are in the path of achieving the Sampanna. Brahmana is basically Brahma Anati, one who takes up the path of Brahma. So Brahmana is not necessarily a realized soul. He is in the path of realization. He is toiling in the path of realization. He is doing adhyayana, he is doing adhyapana, yajana, yajana. Those are the kartavyas of a Brahmana. He is in the path of realization. And Vidya Vinaya Sampanna is somebody who has achieved the Vidya, who is Sampanna with the Vidya and the Vinaya that comes out of Vidya. So the one who is realized, one who is in the path of realization, and one who is a Chandala. Path of realization can be Rajasic because there is a purposeful life, like dharma, artha. There is a purpose in life, and there is something who is sattva already, and who is among the Chandala, who is a complete tamasika guy. He is not bothered about the right path. He is doing all the dirty path, a complete outcast. Among the Gavi, Hastini, and Shuni, among the cows, the elephant, and the dog, Samadarshinaha. So Samadarshinaha need not be Samavartaka. Need not be that I treat both of them the same. I see the same supreme spirit in them. I see the same Brahma in them. Not necessarily so I have the same empathy. Not necessarily I treat them the same. Like if dog has to be fed pedigree and the cow has to be fed the leaves, I can't interchange. I see both of you the same. Now you eat pedigree. I am feeding the cow that go eat pedigree. Uh, I can't feed the elephant meat and mutton. I can feed the dog. That dog would relish the bone. Elephant would hate it. Okay. Cow may not like the cooked food. Elephant might like the cooked food. Cow likes to chew. Keep on chewing as a time pass chewer. Elephant wants to eat. It doesn't. Elephant loves the water, right? It loves to play around in the water. So not necessary that I see the supreme bhava. Samadarshana is having the same swabhava. The swabhavas again, I think we discussed them multiple times, right? The four popular, top of the pile swabhavas. Right? There are many. One is that upeksha, not having any, ill feeling about what they are trying to do. One is that mudita, very very happy. One is, the karuna, karunya, maitra, the friendly nature, the compassion or the empathy, karunya. Then mudita, good good behavior towards them, happy relations with them, and then upeksha, like not really doubting the intentions behind. If the dog comes wagging the tail, I don't offer, hey idiot, now you're asking for some meat. No. If you're hungry, I'll give you. For all you know, the cow, the dog is primarily needing a scratch on the back. That's all it's needing. I can't really doubt it. So there is no ill feeling that we keep having. So these are the four top subhavas, right? So Samadarshana is coming from the Sadbhava, right? Having the same Sadbhava, right? So treating them for the Swarupa that they carry, right? The Atma Swarupa that they carry, right? So treating them for what they are. So Samadarshana is like, taking away the bias for what they are, treating them all equally, but then treat them to their Swabhava. So don't give grass to the tiger and then chicken. Don't feed the chicken to the cow and grass to the tiger. I think that's interchanging we shouldn't do. I think some of us tend to make a mistake, right? We will punish the criminal for their crime, but not for who they are in terms of my relationship with them. If it is my son who is committing a mistake, I will not see who he is. I will have a samadarshana between this crime and that crime, irrespective of the person behind it. So Swabhava has to be treated on top of the relationship, the material attachment that we have around it. So Samadarshana, Samavartana are perhaps two things. I think this is something that we need to bear in mind. Samadarshana, right? So let's see what Aurobindo interpretation says. The sages, the Panditas, I mean, I would like to keep the non-translatable word Pandita here. The Pandita sees with an equal eye the learned, the cultured Brahmin, the cow, the elephant, the dog, and the outcast. Equalize, getting rid of and that is the Atma Swabhava, being able to distance myself. Who am I? Or suddenly, when my daughter comes in front of me and some other kid comes in front of me, both of them done some harm, okay, of breaking somebody's scooter, okay. That Bharata is beyond that attachment to that daughter, attachment to that son. Just like how I see that neighborhood kid, I would see the same way my kid also, in terms of treating them for the mistake they have done or appreciating them for their good deeds in whatever. That's a Samadarshana, right? So this is something that we need to bear in mind. We'll move on now. Shloka number 19. It reads like this. इहैव तैर्जितः सर्गो येषां साम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्मात् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः. Right? Let's see the padacheda. Ihaiva tairjitah sargo yesham samye sitam manah nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmad brahmani te stitaha. I think again everything is a connected message, right? So it's a continuation from the previous shloka, the way we see. Let's see the padacheda. Iha eva taihi jitah sargah yesham samye sitam manah nirdosham hi samam brahma tasmat brahmani te sthitaha. Think more about brahmi sthiti, right? The brahmadina sthiti, brahmi sthiti, right? Anvaya, the prose order, it reads like this. Yesham manaha samye sitam, samadarshane samye sitam, taihi iha eva sargaha jitaha, hi samam brahma nirdosham, tasmate brahmani sthitaha. Right? What does that mean? Dictionary. We click on dictionary. Hey, Arjuna, yesham, by whose manah samye sitam, whose mana is seated in the samya, samadarshana, in the state of that equality, whether it's the dog, whether it's the cow, whether it's the elephant, whether it's the brahmana, whether it's the realized person, vidya vinaya sampanna, or whether it's a chandala, the shvapaka. But I see equality in all of them for their swarupa, for their swabhava. Yesham tat manah samye sitam taihi, by them, iha eva. Iha is the ihaloka. Ihaloka is the earth, paraloka. Here, iha technically means here, right? And but here can also be ihaloka, which is the earth, right? Iha eva, in earth alone, sargaha jitaha. The creation has been won over. Creation is basically the kshipta swabhava of the sarga. See, creation, samsara, by nature is very scattered, disturbing, right? Unstable kind of an energy. That's the thing about, there is a lot of confusion, sukha, dukkha, dvandva. All of this is part of the sarga. So when we say sargaha jitaha, it's the effects of the sarga that is jitaha, right? Conquers the effects of the sarga. Okay. Samam Brahma Nirdosham, and Brahma, who did not give any specific karma, no kartrutva, no karma pala sanyoga, he did not give it to anyone. When the rain is falling, it's falling equally on every inch of the land. The person, the Raita, the farmer who has done better preparations on his land, he has more likelihood of getting better yield. The neighbor who has done nothing about his piece of land cannot blame, oh, rain, you have been partial towards that guy. You poured mineral rich water to his land. You did not give enough minerals to my land. It's the kartavya shakti, kriya shakti, prayatna shakti, ichha shakti, jnana shakti. That's what he has to do. Brahma is nirdosha and sama. That rain is nirdosha and sama. Right? So nirdosham hi samam brahma iti matva. Like, looking at that Brahma who is nirdosha behind all the creatures, all the jivas, all the bhutas, and looking at them in the samya sthiti, without any bias, without any prejudice. Like, Brahmani sthitaha, those people, iha eva, here alone, having conquered the effects of the creation, they will be seated in the Brahma. They will acquire that Brahmi sthiti. Brahmi sthiti is something that he started introducing in the second chapter when he spoke about Sita Prajna state, Sitadhi state. Finally, his final conclusion is, oh, this is Brahmi Sthiti, O Partha. Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha. Na enam prapya vimuhyati. This is the Brahmi Sthiti. Once we see that Samatva, being Sama, not having completely controlled the senses, the same concept. This is the sannyasta state. Now here, the quality, the traits of a sannyasi is the faculty of the sannyasa is kind of expounded very nicely, articulated very nicely, but the message has been consistent. Now, this is perhaps the seventh round of Bhagavad Gita that we are hearing, or the seventh Bhagavad Gita that we are hearing, but it's the same message. But now the focus is on sannyasa because that's the question being asked by Arjuna, right? So now Brahmi Siddhi, finally concluding, we are concluding towards the message from the 10th shloka when we see, has been slowly gyrated towards the concept of achieve the Brahmi Siddhi through the Bahiranga Shuddhi by cleansing your avayavas, karmendriya, achieve the state of Brahmi Siddhi. Start looking for that samatva. So by getting more and more tad buddhayaha, tad tatparaha, tad buddhaya, tadatmanaha, tannishtaha, tatparayanaha. Constantly go for the jnana, atma jnana, through which ajnana can be overcome. That you start brightly, glowing and see the samatva, be a samadarshaka, and then be seated in the Brahmi sthiti. Right? What does Aurobindo say? He says, even here alone, iha eva, here alone on earth, they conquer the creation or the effects of the creation, whose mind is established in equality. The equal Brahma is faultless, therefore they live in the Brahma, or seated in the Brahma, considering Brahma to be faultless, look established in equality. Here alone they overcome the sarga, effects of the sarga. Right? So let's move on now. So this is all Brahmi Sthiti. Right? And I think this perhaps is the conclusion to the Brahmi Sthiti, right? Shloka number 5, sorry, Shloka number 20, chapter number 5. When we click on next, right, it reads like this. न प्रहृष्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोद्विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिरसम्मूढो ब्रह्मवेद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः न प्रहृष्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोद्विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिरबुद्धिरसम्मूढो ब्रह्मवेद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः. When we do the padacheda, we get na prahrishyet priyam prapya na udvijet prapya cha apriyam sthira buddhihi asammudaha brahmavit brahmani sthitaha. Again, this is more about Brahmi Sthiti. I think finally we are looking at the curtain raiser, right? The upasamhara kind of a thing for this explanation of the Brahmi Sthiti, right? Final debrief. The Anvaya, it reads like this. Sthira buddhihi asammudaha, hey Arjuna, that sthira buddhihi asammudaha brahmavit brahmani sitaha priyam prapya na prahrushyet apriyam prapya na cha udvijet. What does that mean? We click on dictionary. Hey Arjuna, that sthira buddhihi asammudaha, the one with the sthitadhi, asammudaha, without any mudatva. Okay, the unbewildered, stable intellect person, Brahmavit, knowing the Brahma. Okay, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma. That's the definition we see, right? Brahma Arpanam, Brahmavihi, Brahma Agno, Brahmana Hutam, Brahmaivatena Gantavyam, Brahma Karma Samadhina. We hear all of these, right? In the fourth chapter we saw that everything is Brahma. Brahma with understanding that all encompassing, Samadarshana Brahma, Nirdosham Hi Samam Brahma, that kind of a Brahma who is faultless behind every creature. He is there in everything, right? And Brahmani Sitaha, seated in that Brahma. Because if everyone is in Brahma, I am also in the same Brahma. We are all in the shared Brahma space, Brahmi space, shared Brahma consciousness, right? That kind of a person, that Sira Buddhihi, Asam Mudaha, who is Brahmavid and Brahmani Sitaha, that guy, Priyam Prapyana Prahrishyeet, he will not jump up in joy by getting something desirable, something that is pleasant. Priyam Prapya, having obtained something pleasant, na Prahrishyeet, he shall never rejoice. Apriyam prapya nacha udvijet. Having gained, having obtained something unpleasant, does not get agitated, does not recluse into sorrow, right? Na udvijet. Very nice. But look at this word, prahrishyet, udvijet. I think we have spoken about this, right? There are five such words in the third adhyaya, one such word in the fourth adhyaya. These are the vidilings, the type of verbs which are adeshatmaka, which are like commandment. So there are a handful of such commandments all throughout Bhagavad Gita. We get to hear these two in this chapter. The next chapter will have a few more. Okay, these are, so if there is something called commandments from Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, these two are one of them. These are very specific rules. You shall do this. You shall not do this. Right? Thou shall not jump up in joy upon obtaining something pleasant. Right? Don't jump up in joy. Don't get unnecessarily over rejoiced. That is the nature of a yogi. Yukta. Yoga Yukta Sannyasi, he is the type who doesn't jump up in joy. And nor does he lose it, right? By losing something or by gaining something that's unpleasant. Na udvijet. You shall not get agitated. You shall not get overly rejoiced by getting something nice. You shall not get agitated by gaining something unpleasant. Such is the state of the Sthira Buddhihi, Asammudaha, Brahmavit Brahmani Sthitaha. Such a person, Sthira Buddhihi, Asammudaha, Brahmavit Brahma. See, this is the same quality of a Sthitadhi, Sthira Buddhi. He explains in the second chapter also. Yes, sarvatra nabhisneha tattat prapya shubha shubham. Whether shubha or ashubha. Yeah, sarvatra anabhisneha. I don't have any attachment to any of them. Tattat prapya. Whatever comes, I will take that. Okay, na abhinandati, na dveshti. I don't have any abhinandana, special abhinandana, na dvesha. Tasya prajna pratisthita. He is the one who is the prajna. It's similar. But here he is speaking from a Brahmi city for more from a Kanyasa. The same message. At the end of the day, the entire Bhagavad Gita message can be understood through the first two shlokas of the Ishavasya Upanishad. You don't need anything more. Understand everything is this all pervading Isha, the Ishvara, Ishavasya, Vasudeva. He is the one who is there everywhere. Ishavasya Vidam Jagat. And then Kurvan Neveha Karmani. Keep doing work. Right? So, if you understand the first two shlokas of Ishavasya, the entire Bhagavad Gita comes. In fact, the same Bhagavad Gita by the same Vyasa Maharshi in Agni Purana is only three shlokas. The entire Sangraha of this entire conversation is summarized in three shlokas. Right? But what we see in this Yoga Shastra is primarily helping us understand the concept of sannyasa. What is sannyasa? Because that's an essential trait. And some of these deeper messages are something that we can internalize so that more and more constant contemplation of these thoughts will perhaps change the way we behave. Right? The summary is given in Ishavasya. Summary is given in the Agni Purana. There are many other places where the summary is given. But if we have to internalize these teachings to become better people, this is the Yoga Shastra. Right? So there is commandment coming. Na praharshyet priyam prapya. Don't get overly rejoiced when you get something nice. Don't lose your mind. Don't get agitated. Na udvijet apriyam prapya. Be sthira buddhi. Don't let your buddhi get swayed away by emotions. Sthira buddhi asammudaha, in an unbewildered state. Brahmavid, understanding the Brahma. Brahmani sthitaha. And understanding Brahma is not easy. The first instance he gave is, tad buddhayaha, tadatmanaha, tannishtaha, tatparayanaha. These are the four essential traits. Internalize them over a course of time. Kalena atmani vindati, something that he spoke. The jnana, kalena atmani vindati. That's what he spoke in the fourth adhyaya. Right? We can hear about it from some of the learned acharyas. Right now we are hearing the message from Gita Acharya, Bhagavan Sri Krishna. But if I have to make it my own, I have to experience it with him. That will happen. So I think the next section will be that Antaranga Shuddhi. From now, we will move on to the Antaranga Shuddhi. Before that, let's quickly see what Aurobindo translation says for this. It says, with intelligence stable, with a state of unbewildered, in a state of unbewildered self, The knower of the Brahma, living in the Brahma, neither rejoices nor obtaining what is pleasant, nor sorrows on obtaining what is unpleasant. But the way I see it, don't jump up. He's giving a commandment, not if. You shall not. That Vidiling Lakara, thou shall not. It's a instruction being given by Krishna. Na udvijet, na praharshyet. You shall not jump up in joy. Control the emotions. Get to the Bahiranga Shuddhi aspect first, then Antaranga will happen automatically. I will see the shloka slightly differently for what that Dhatu is primarily trying to convey. The Vidiling is more of a commandment, a more didactic approach. Do this, giving an instruction. When we look at things like Manusmriti, a document that we study in depth every Sunday, right? Series of these Vidiling Lakaras that we see, maximum usage of the Vidiling Lakaras. So these Vidiling Lakaras, like Prakrishiyet, Udvijet, in the third Adhyaya we saw that, right? Na Prasiddhyet, don't get famous on what? Akarmana. Don't get famous on doing akarma. In inaction, you should never get famous. Do your action. People should know you for your action. Your fame should be associated with action, not the infamous attack. So some of these are very good, right? Buddhi bedam na janayet, ajnanam karma sangina, buddhi bedam na janayet. Don't create buddhi beda. Thou shall not create buddhi beda. No if condition there. You should not do. Navshalayet, like joshayet, sarva karmani joshayet. Infuse josh in every action. Krishna with akrishna with a mandan na vishalayet. Don't destabilize them. Don't distract them. Na vishalayet. So we see this. Tayor na vashamagachet. Don't come under the spell of Indriya Vishaya. Don't tayoho vasham na agachet. Don't come under their captivity. Shall not come under their captivity. So we see a lot of such Vidiling Lakaras, right? Make a list of them, make a poster. There are hardly 10, 15, exactly 18. I think it's entire Bhagavad-Gita. There are 18, can easily fit into an A4 size sheet and make it into a poster, paste it on the wall. Look at them. That is Bhagavad-Gita. The entire Bhagavad-Gita can be understood in these 18 Vidiling words when you look at these shlokas. Right? That's the Shuddhi, Bahiranga Shuddhi. I think from the next shloka, we see the Antaranga Shuddhi. I think the word that Krishna uses is Brahma Yoga Yukti. Right? Brahma Yoga Yukta. Brahma Yoga is that Antaranga. Now we have to internalize that. Right? We stop here, 9:34, 21, next Saturday. With that, on the reverse count of 5,
Bhattaji,
I
there
think we
was
can
a
say
question in the chat about
3, 2, 1. Namaste Vasudevaya Preyasam me Priyottama Samasta Guna Sampurna Nirdosha Nandadayini Mukopi Yat Prasadena Mukunda Shayanayate Rajarajayate Rikto Raghavendram Tamashrayi Bharati Raman Mukhya Pranam Sarata Shri Gopala Krishna Priyatam Shri Krishna Tanamastu. Have a beautiful